My dad and his new wife tried to take over my inherited home after their wedding, so I changed that locks and took back control. My grandmother left me her house when she passed away last year. It wasn't huge or fancy, just a small 3-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood, but it was mine, completely paid off with my name on the deed. I was 23 and finally had a place of my own. My dad got remarried 6 months after Grandma died. His new wife, Linda, seemed nice at first. Always smiling, always offering to help with wedding planning, always talking about family being so important. I went to their wedding, gave them a nice gift, the whole thing. 2 weeks after they got back from their honeymoon, Dad called me. Said he wanted to stop by and talk about something important. I figured maybe he wanted to borrow money or needed help moving furniture. He showed up with Linda and they were both dressed way too nice for a casual visit. Dad sat me down at my kitchen table and said they had an idea. Linda jumped in before I could respond. She said since I was young and single, I probably didn't need a whole house to myself. And since they were newlyweds living in Dad's tiny apartment, wouldn't it make more sense for us all to live together? I just stared at them. Dad kept talking like this was a totally normal conversation. He said I could take the smallest bedroom, they'd take the master, and we could turn the third room into Linda's home office, my grandma's sewing room that I'd been using as my art studio. Linda actually had the nerve to say it would be fun, like we'd be roommates. I told them no. This was my house that Grandma left specifically to me. Dad's face got tight. He said Grandma would have wanted us to be a family under one roof, that I was being selfish keeping a whole house when they were struggling to afford rent. Linda added that it was the least I could do after everything Dad had done for me growing up. I stood up and told them they needed to leave. Dad got angry, said I was being ungrateful and disrespectful. Linda started crying, saying she just wanted to be close to her new stepdaughter. They finally left, but not before Dad said we'd talk about this again when I was being more reasonable. 3 days later, I came home from work and found them inside my house. They'd let themselves in with the spare key I'd given Dad for emergencies. Linda was measuring my grandma's sewing room, talking about where her desk would go. Dad was in the master bedroom looking at the closet space. I completely lost it. Asked them what they were doing in my house without permission. Dad said they were just planning ahead for when we all moved in together, that I'd come around eventually and see this made sense. Linda tried to hug me, said she'd already started packing up their apartment. I told them to get out immediately and demanded Dad give me back the spare key. He refused, said he was my father and had a right to access my home, that I was acting like a spoiled brat. I called a locksmith right there in front of them. Dad laughed and said I was being dramatic, but I wasn't joking. The locksmith showed up an hour later and changed every single lock on my house. Front door, back door, garage, everything. Cost me $300, but it was worth it. Dad and Linda stood in my driveway the whole time, with Dad yelling about how I was tearing our family apart. Linda was on her phone, probably texting relatives about what a terrible daughter I was. The locksmith handed me the new keys and Dad tried one last time. He said if I didn't let them move in, he'd take me to court. Claimed that Grandma wasn't in her right mind when she changed her will. I pulled out my phone and showed him the video Grandma had recorded with her lawyer 2 years before she died. She was completely clear-headed, explaining exactly why she was leaving the house to me and not to Dad. She even mentioned that she didn't want Linda anywhere near her property. Dad's face went white. He grabbed Linda and they drove off without another word. That was 4 months ago. Dad finally apologized last week, said Linda had been pushing the whole moving in idea and he got caught up in it. Linda still won't talk to me, but honestly, I don't care. My house, my rules.